So the federal government has a requirement. They're putting together a contract or an order, and what they're going to do is include this clause, this FAR clause, government sources of supply. Okay, and they're also going to include a statement to the effect of when you submit your proposal or your quote, you can use the deviation granted by FAR 51. This tells the contractors, I can include items that I plan to procure from another contractor in my quote or in my proposal. I would state that the items need to be structured on a T&M labor hour basis. And then this is more of a best practice, this last bullet, but I wouldn't mandate that the quote or the proposal needs to include use of the FAR 51 deviation. Remember that it's just a tool. I mean, you should leave the flexibility open for the contractor to come back to you and say, well, teaming would be better, or subcontracting would be better. So it's just another tool in your toolbox to use, and that the contractor can use to provide a total solution to you as a federal customer. Okay, so you put the solicitation on the street. The buying contractor sees it, responds to it, submits their quote or proposal to you. Let me elaborate on the buying. So when the contractor's submitting their quote or proposal, they need to do some initial research if they plan on utilizing items from, or buying items using the deviation. They need to do some initial research and provide to you in their quote or proposal, you know, I foresee that I'm going to need 20 computers. You know, and I plan to use the schedules program to buy those computers. And doing some initial market research, I think the estimated ceiling price or not to exceed price is $100,000. Because then as the government CO, you need to verify or document that that ceiling price is fair and reasonable. That's how you're going to evaluate the quote or proposal. So there's some initial research that the contractor has to do in order to even propose those items. But you're not doing you're not line item out pricing, you're not running any competition at this point. You don't even have the contract. You don't have the award. You evaluate the proposals. Remember again that the portion of the award using the deviation, those items need to be on a T&M basis and not to exceed or estimated ceiling price. Then you're required to add a written authorization to your contract file. This is a standard part of FAR Part 51, has nothing to do with the deviation. Okay, so you need to justify why using the deviation is a good idea and put that in your contract file. And then you award the contractor order. This gets to your point. That contractor order needs to include a written authorization to your contractor that outlines how they can use the Deviations Authority. Okay, there's elements that need to be included in that written authorization, and they're line itemed out, listed in FAR Part 51. You can add additional requirements onto the authorization as well. You can put a time limit. You can put a dollar value limit, so you can tailor it to meet your needs. If your contractor is going to use GSA Global Supply, they need an activity address code, an AAC or a DODAC. And the way you request that is, as the federal government CO, is the way that you normally would to use Global Supply. You have an agency point of contact. So you obtain the code that you're going to provide to the contractor if the procurement vehicle is GSA Global Supply. At this point, the global supply game kind of ends. I mean, the contractor does a PO, gets the supplies from GSA Global Supply, and the process is virtually over. Because when you're buying from GSA Global Supply, you're not buying directly from a contractor, you're buying from GSA. Okay? So the buying contractor receives the award with the written authorization, and now they're ready, say, in the course of performance, to place an order with the selling contractor. Okay. The selling contractor, now we're talking schedules, because remember, two choices, GSA Global Supply or schedules. So the selling contractor has the ability to accept or reject the order from the buying contractor. This is the scope clause for you contractors in the room. If you're schedule contractors, the scope clause in your contract says that you can reject or accept an order. Okay? So, and then GSA Supply fulfills the order if you're using GSA Supply. On your process map, the game kind of ends here for GSA Global Supply buys until we get to the very end. Okay, as the selling contractor provides the items to the buying contractor. Like I said at the beginning of the presentation, the buying contractor in effect becomes the government. So that sale that the schedule contractor, the selling contractor, is making to the buying contractor is a schedule sale that needs to be tracked as such, and the IFF needs to be remitted on those items that they're providing the buying contractor. Okay, this gets a little dicey for the selling contractors who may have to adjust their sales tracking systems and things like that, because it's a government sale. It's not a sale to a commercial customer. Okay. And this doesn't, I mean, this is a customer class, but I might as well mention the price reduction clause does not apply in this case. So if that buying contractor is the selling contractor's most favored customer, no price reduction clause triggers. Okay. The buying contractor is required to pay the selling contractor before they invoice you as the federal government, and they need to provide evidence that they've done so. The customer needs to ensure that the buying contractor did everything right. That's a major point. It's the federal government contracting officer, the person who grants the authorization. It's their responsibility to make sure that the buying contractor followed the rules. And not only the rules in the authorization, but the FAR 8.4 ordering procedures. Okay, and you're within your right to ask for whatever you want to make sure that happened. How did you do your market research? Who did you receive quotes from? What did those quotes look like? You can ask for any of that information from the buying contractor. And then you pay them. Let's assume performance is done, you pay, and virtually the process is over. It's simple, but it's confusing, right? And I just said this again. The federal government CO, you are responsible to make sure that everything went great. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to test you. Is the deviation only available for time and material or labor hour contract types? No. Right. Only the items that the buying contractor is going to buy from the selling contractor need to be on a T&M, labor hour basis. Look how fancy I am. No. Can the government tailor the authorization? Can you put extra things in the authorization? Yes. I didn't cover this. This is a trick question. If the order or the contract is already in place, can the CO modify it to include the deviation? No. Here's why, and it makes sense, I think. It could have turned out differently if you had given the contractors the ability to use the deviation when they submitted their quote or their proposal. Okay, it skews the playing field if you allow your contractor who's already been awarded based on a best value determination to now use the deviation. What if contractor B, who lost, could have provided you a better solution and a better price? It needs to be at the beginning. In your solicitation or in your RFQ, you need to include the clause and a statement or whatever you want to write that the contractor can propose those items with their proposal or quote. Same goes for BPAs. There's a BPA, you can't modify it. It needs to be right up front when you establish that BPA that the deviation is available for those contractors to use. Can the buying contractor mark up the items? No. Make sure when you're reviewing your invoice, there's no fees included, at least obviously included, on these items. Here's another example. PBS awards a contract to a company to retrofit a building. The contract is $10 million, and there's an estimated ceiling price of $35,000 that the contractor thinks they're going to need to buy some stuff. And they say, well, it makes sense that we think that schedule that we'll use is 51V, the hardware superstore. You know, we might come across things as we're retrofitting this building, we need whatever, door handles. The contractor realizes during the retrofitting that some stuff is broken. If they have the authorization, it's so simple. They just look on GSA Advantage, 35 grand, under the simplified acquisition threshold. Okay, so they just need to look. They need to look at least 3 contractors. Place a delivery order. You're done.